Well, hello, this is Vincent Green, and we're going to continue our look at New Testament Greek grammar. And today we're beginning lesson number 9 of our Machen textbook. There's 33 lessons in this textbook, and we'll work through each one of those. And I'm going to make a video kind of working through lesson number 9, and then I'll have another video where we do some translation work, so that way you'll see some of that, typical to how I've been doing the other videos. So lesson number 9 is on a couple of items. One is demonstrative pronouns, and then we have further uses of aŭtos, and so when you talk about aŭtos, that was presented to us in the previous lesson in regards to personal pronouns. And so that's the third person pronoun is what that is. So we're going to look at those two topics, but then I'll cover the vocabulary, and then we'll do some translation work. But before I begin with demonstrative pronouns, let me show you a document. We've looked at this before. This is from Grammarly. It's a document that I have online that you can, I'll make sure the link is in the description below so you can look at this again. But I showed you this with pronouns when we talked about personal pronouns. And since we're still in the area of pronouns, talking about pronouns, but these are going to be demonstrative pronouns, just wanted to remind you generally what a pronoun is, and then talk specifically about demonstrative pronouns before we begin to look at it in our Greek textbook. So it talks about here how we use pronouns every day. Pronouns are words you substitute for other nouns. So if you say, I have a dog, she is brown and white, there's no need to clarify that you're describing your dog. You're using the word she, since your dog must be female in this sentence. So the word she is a pronoun referring back to the dog. And so that's by using that pronoun she, you can avoid the annoying repetition of the word dog and saying, I have a dog. My dog is brown and white. My dog is this. My dog is so. You don't really talk that way. You don't speak that way. So pronouns are used in language, and pronouns do a whole lot more than just avoiding repetitions. They provide context. They make your sentences meanings clearer. They shape how we perceive people and things. And so that is pronouns generally speaking. And there's personal pronouns, which we've looked at in the previous lesson. But then there's other kinds of pronouns. There's relative pronouns, reflexive type pronouns, and different kinds of pronouns. And the demonstrative is the one that we want to look at. That's the one we want to take more of a deep dive into. And so demonstrative pronouns, this is what you would say is the word that, this, these, and those. It's these kinds of words. So our demonstrative pronouns, they can point directly to an antecedent or replace one that has already been mentioned or is clear through context. So think of it this way. The word this is used for singular items that are nearby. These is used for multiple items that are nearby. So this and these is singular, plural. Okay? Here's some examples. She looked at the envelope and said, this has no return address. We better add one. So what is the word this? This is a demonstrative pronoun pointing back to what? The envelope. The envelope. Now she is a pronoun pointing back to another sentence that we don't have, which would have been maybe the name of the person. So this is a personal pronoun referring to a person. This is a demonstrative pronoun referring to this object here. And it points to it. So this is a singular item, one envelope, this. What a fantastic idea. This is the best thing I've heard all day. What is the this referring back to? The fantastic idea. So now it's a concept. So again, demonstrative pronouns point back. They have an antecedent, like personal pronouns, but different kind of antecedent. And so it's better to use the word this instead of the word he or she or it. And it kind of states it in a way that is, I want you to know that that fantastic idea or that envelope is close to my proximity. That's the idea for the reason I use the demonstrative pronoun in the first place. And it can be that are nearby. Since I use this and these. Example for these, if you think gardenias smell nice, try smelling these. So that would be, now these would be something else in addition to the gardenias, or it could be, well, you think gardenias smell nice, well, try smelling these gardenias. That's probably the way the sentence goes. Gardenias in general, well, I got some specific gardenias I want you to smell. So that's this singular these. These are called the near. Since it says nearby, we call this the near demonstrative. But then there are the ones that are farther away. So we call this the near demonstrative, the far, F-A-R, demonstrative. And that's the word that and those. So that is for a singular item, that's far away. Those is for multiple items that are farther away, so that are far away as well. Again, the distance can be physical or metaphorical. So that would be a nice place to live, they said, pointing at the large house. So they're at a distance from the large house and they're pointing to it and they're saying that. If it was like, if they were standing in front of the house, they would say this house. But since they're standing far away from it, they say the word that. Okay? But it's still referring to one entity, one item. Some new flavors of soda came in last week. Why don't you try some of those? So the flavors of soda, why is they use the word those instead of these? Because the flavors of soda are not as accessible. And so you choose the word those instead of the word these. But those is the far away demonstrative, the far demonstrative, and it's plural. Plural. And so you just have to be aware of that, okay? Those aren't swans, they're geese. So those is pointing to the geese, but the geese are like, far away. You can't touch them. So you have the near demonstrative and the far demonstrative. That's how this works, okay? So you're going to see the same thing in Greek. Okay, it's the same thing in Greek, except it's in the Greek language. So what does it look like? Well, let's go to it. So this is the demonstrative. It's hutos. Hutos. You see the rough breathing there? That means that it's an H sound. So it's hutos. It's like a H sound that you hear. And so you have, they're declined with masculine, feminine, neuter, and they have case endings on them. So they're all different by case because it's set up like a pronoun and like adjectives when it comes to how it works. So you have hutos, hute, huto, tuto, tautes, tutu, tuto. So that's tutu, tautes, tutu, tuto, taute, tuto. And so if you say, well, look at this, it's all once you get to genitive, dative, and accusative, you always have a tau, omicron, upsilon at the beginning of it, right? Except when the feminine, it's tau, alpha. So you can see the patterns. And then to, taste, to. That's the article, the definite article. To, te, to, definite article. And so you can see patterns as you learn to memorize this. And so hutos is, it's hutos, haute, tuto. That's the masculine, the feminine, the neuter. This is the word for this. This. Okay? So this would be this, because it's singular. This and these. Remember? Over here you have this is the singular, and these is the plural form. So these are the near demonstrative. Hutos is this and these. So all of this represents this. All of this represents these. So you want to be aware of that in terms of the declensions and the translations that go along with it. Now, the statements made here about that says the puzzling variations between oo and ow in the first syllable of the word may be fixed in the memory if it be observed that an o vowel in the diphthong oo stands in the first syllable where an o vowel or the long of it stands in the second syllable. And so this goes back to lesson number 1, where it's talking about vowels and the short vowels and the long vowels. When you have an A-class vowel, when you do in the feminine, in the diphthong ow, stands in the first syllable, where an A vowel, closely related to the eta, stands in the second syllable. So it's saying that if you have an O-class vowel here, you're going to have an O-class vowel here, an A-class vowel here, you're going to have an A-class representation of that, which, that could be the long version. So it's trying to show you patterns or give you some ideas of how you can memorize these and kind of understand the pattern. So this is a paradigm that you want to memorize, similar as you have been doing with the other pronouns, adjectives, all the other paradigms that you've been learning. You want to learn this and be aware of it, and so you have singular and plural. This, these. So this is the near demonstrative. The declension of ekainos, that, is like the declension of the adjectives in os, a, on, except that eikaino stands instead of ekainon in the nominative and accusative singular neuter. So they don't give you the full paradigm because they want you to go back to the adjectives, and that would be back in lesson 6 is what they would want you to go back to, lesson 6, and work through that. It is paragraph 61. So I could kind of take you back to that. Lesson 6, and then paragraph 61. Here is the agathos, so agathos, agathe, agathon. And so ekainos follows this same pattern. So instead of writing out the full paradigm for you, they are just showing you the words here, are making the statement that ekainos, that. So if it's that, then in the plural, that's singular. So in the plural, it would be those, that and those. This is this and these, near demonstrative. That and those, far demonstrative. So it's just like the declension of the adjectives using os, a, and on. The only difference is that you'll have ekaino stands instead of ekainon in the nominative and accusative singular neuter. So just know that that's the one exception to the paradigm. So you want to go back to that paradigm I just showed you, paragraph 61. It's in lesson number 6, and you want to go back to that. Okay. So that is how this would work in terms of the near demonstrative, this and these, and then you have a kainos, which is that and those. The singular is that, far demonstrative. Those are the plural version of the far demonstrative. So here's an idea of how you use them, how they show up in Greek. So utos and ekainos, this and those, or I'm sorry, this and these, that and those. This, these, that, those are frequently used with nouns. When they are so used, the noun with which they are used has the article and they themselves stand in the predicate, not the attributive position. Okay? So notice the predicate position, the attributive position is it has the article, right? Well, the predicate does not have the article. So you could say this word, hutos ha logos. So you would say, you would think to translate this, the word is this, right? The word is this. You think it acts like an adjective, but it doesn't. It's not going to have an article with it. So it doesn't function like an adjective. Again, it's like a pronoun. So it comes under the classification of pronouns, not adjectives. And so what you want to understand is this is the way it's going to look. Hutos halagos, this word, or halagos hutos. Either way, this word. Ekainos halagos, or halagos ekainos. Be that word. How do I know to put the word that or this? Because it's singular. Singular. I see this church. I see taute, tain, ekklesion. I see the church, but it's this church. And that is singular. Singular. So I would use, because this is, the accusative, feminine accusative singular, because it matches, again, the noun it can go with. So sometimes you can have the word this without a noun, but one of the uses is that it comes frequently with a noun that it modifies to specify it even more. So here's these words, hutoi, halogoi. So we have a plural noun, and we see the hutoi with it. So these words are those words, ekainoi, halagoi, or halagoi, ekainoi. So that would be the plural form of the far demonstrative. So you have this and these, that and those. So sometimes you'll see the demonstrative pronoun attached to the noun directly. It'll come right after it like that. That it modifies, or that it's the antecedent of, or that it's pointing to, that the noun is accompanied by it. Okay? You can have this good word. So here you have hutos, ha, kalos, logos. So that's an adjective. So the good word, but it's the good word, this the good word. And when you have the words this the good word, you take out the article and just say this good word. That's how you translate it. The good word this. Still this good word. That's how you would translate that. You don't need to say this the good word. Just this good word. Now, you can have hautos and ekainos. This is this and these, singular and plural. That, those. They may frequently be used by themselves without nouns. Here, they could be used with nouns. What about if they're by themselves and there's no nouns? So, hautos, this man. Or you can say this person because this is the masculine. Haute, this woman. Tuto, this thing. Plural form, hautoi, these men. Or you could have alte, these women. Tauta, or altai, these women. Tauta, these things. So you have to realize that the demonstrative pronoun, this and these, that and those, can be used with nouns or without nouns. That's how it works in Greek language. Okay? And so you have to be aware of that. It's pointers. These are pointers. These are pointing words that point maybe back to something that was said in the sentence, or points to the word that it's attached to if the noun actually shows up. It's demonstrative in that it's pointing out something that the author wants you to recognize. He wants you to see that this specific word, that specific word, or these specific people, those specific people, he wants to make he's pointing out something. And so that's the use, or that's the reason the demonstrative exists in the first place. Okay? So you have to be aware of that. Now, we have further uses of ααυτός. So ααυτός, again, takes us back to the personal pronoun. It was in paragraph 96. I can take you back and show you that. So that was in lesson 8, just the previous lesson over that we just had. So we talk about, this is the declension of the personal pronoun, third person. So you have αὐτός, αὐτή, αὐτό, and so that's the singular. Then you have the plural, and so you just want to be aware that that can be a pronoun. Well, now there's some additional uses of αὐτός, and I want to show you these. So in addition to its use as a personal pronoun of the third person, αὐτός is also used in the following ways. It has an intensive use with nouns. So when it's a personal pronoun, it's just standing by itself normally, right? But it can have, if it shows up with nouns, that's an intensive use. So when so used, it stands in the predicate position, similar to the demonstrative pronoun. So you have αὐτός, ha apostolos, or ha apostolos αὐτός. And the way it translates, it's the apostle himself. It's kind of like it's an intensive use. Or you can have αὐτή, he ecclesia, αὐτή, the church itself. Now, the reason it's feminine here is because the noun is feminine, but since it is an object that a church represents more of a neuter idea, even though it's not neuter in gender in terms of the Greek word, but the translation equivalent is itself. Not you could say the church herself. That's why you in the King James sometimes will say things like that, because it's a feminine noun, but really you could say the church itself. So it's that intensive idea. It's not just that the apostle did something, it's that the apostle himself did something. Get the point of that? See the distinction of that? Here you have αὐτό, ta, doron, or the reverse. Remember, it does not have the article. That is the gift itself. So again, it's intensifying the noun. And the best way to translate that is use the word himself, herself, or itself. Or themselves if it's plural. Now, it can often also be used with nouns to mean the word same. Same. Now, if it's like that, it's going to have an article with it. See, there's going to be an article in front of the αὐτός. So it can be used as a pronoun, that means by itself. It can be used with nouns, no article, that's intensive. If it's got an article on it, it's the same, like the same apostle, that are the same church. Here you see an article attached to the word αὐτός, or the personal pronoun of αὐτός. So these other uses can show up. So when you see αὐτός, it doesn't mean it's always a personal pronoun. It is in terms of its grammar. However, by the way it's used in the sentence, it could be more used in an intensive way, or to try to be more of talking about the same church or the same apostle, and to communicate that idea. Now, in its intensive use, it often goes with pronouns or with the unexpressed subject of a verb. So you can see it like this as well. αὐτός, ego, lego. So getting back to the intensive use, usually, no article here. You can see it with pronouns and maybe a verb, or an unexpressed subject of a verb. So here the pronoun is, that's an expressed verb because the pronoun's here. This is unexpressed because there's no pronoun here, but you can see it either way, and it's I myself say. So it's when you see aŭtos attached to a verb or the pronoun of the verb, if it's expressed, if it has the official pronoun, it's I myself say. So that's a separate kind of an intensive use. Aŭtos su leges, you singular. If you took out aŭtos, it would be you say, right? You say. But when you add the aŭtos in there, it's you yourself say. That's the old King James language there, or translation. Aŭtos lege, he himself says. So it's the use of, when you have aŭtos here with the verb. So you can have aŭtos show up by itself, aŭtos with a noun in the predicate position, aŭtos with a noun in the attributive position. And here you can have aŭtos showing up in front of a verb, or the express pronoun that's attached to a verb. Okay? And it's translated I myself, or he himself, she herself, it itself, or we ourselves, you yourselves, plural, or they themselves. So it depends on what person and number it is, but if you see aŭtos connected to a verb. So these are other uses of that. So basically, the principal uses of adjectives and of the pronouns that we've studied thus far could be reviewed as follows. So you have the good word, the word the good, so you can translate that, the good word, either way, the good word, so that's attributive. Then you have adjective, unattributive, right? Predicate, so the word is good. Here you have the near demonstrative, so this word is how that would be translated, or you could have the far demonstrative, that word, again, the predicate position, but it's translated like that. Then you have these different uses of aŭtos, in addition to the pronoun references or pronoun use that we looked at last lesson. So you have aŭtos, halagos, so that is the word itself, or you could have with the attributive position the same word. You could also have, these are just more of like regular pronouns, my word, this is possessive, his word. Auton is I see him, that's just functioning as a pronoun in the accusative position. This is a pronoun functioning as a possessive because of its genitive use. I see this man. I see these things. This is just some summaries of that. You also have the same word. So you have the different uses of that we have seen of adjectives and pronouns up to this point. That's just kind of like a summary paragraph just to kind of bring it all together of the different things. Let me show you briefly the vocabulary. So you got some vocabulary, which I have created this in Quizlet, so you can get access to that. Again, if you go to the YouTube description box below the video, you're going to get a lot of helps with the Quizlet. That way you can test your knowledge of vocabulary. You're going to want to keep learning your vocabulary because you need to be able to learn how to translate sentences. And so here we got hey, agape. That's the word for love. Remember we talk about agape love? There it is. Agape. Hey, agape is the word for love. Hey, harmatia, so feminine. Harmatia, that's the word for sin. It's the idea of missing the mark. And so that's harmartia. That's why we have in theology, it's called harmartiology. We get that word from the word harmartia, which means to sin, to miss the mark. Baptizo is a verb, meaning I baptize. Literally, it means I immerse. So we have ha didaskalos, that's the word for teacher. Didasko is to teach, right? I am teaching. So didaskalos is the one who teaches. It's a teacher. So ekainos, ekaine, ekaino is the pronoun. It means that. Hey, epangela. So when you have the two gammas together, remember it can be like an ng type of sound, epangela. So it's the word for hey. Epangela is the word for promise, like God makes a promise. Euangelion, ta euangelion, that's neuter, so that's feminine. Ta euangelion is the gospel, so it's the gospel message. We get the word evangelist is derived from that. Krino is a verb meaning I judge. Nun is an adverb meaning now. So here we have, this was the far demonstrative. It's declined like a adjective here. That's the word that and these. That is the singular. These, I'm sorry, that and those. That and those is the plural. Then you have the near demonstrative, hutos, haute, tuto. It's a pronoun, and it's this, and then the plural would be these, this and these. So we have hutos, which is an adverb. It's like the word thus or so. Paneros, paneron is an adjective. So that's masculine, feminine, neuter. Adjective means evil. So we have a different word, I think, for wickedness, but this is the word for evil, paneros. Prosopon, prosopon means a face. So the way I remember this one is put soap on my face, right? Prosopon, put soap on. So that's the way I remember that. So prosopon is a face, ta prosopon, and then hey kara is the word for joy. You'll find that word in the book of Philippians a lot. And the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace. That's the word for joy, hey kara. So that's your vocabulary. Again, you want to use the Quizlet program. You're going to want to make sure you're learning your vocabulary. Make sure you're working with the vocabulary, because the more you understand and can memorize the vocabulary and associate with what is the English word that comes from that, the better you're going to be able to translate. You're not going to be struggling with what the meaning of the words are. It's more better to learn the vocabulary so that when it comes to the grammar, you can pick up on the grammar as you translate sentences. So I also have quizzes. If you look in the YouTube description, you'll see quizzes that are available. 2 quizzes, and there's a worksheet. Remember, with quizzes, you want to try not to look at the textbook as much as possible. So you do the quiz and then test yourself, or, well, the quiz is testing yourself. You can also look at the answer key. There's an answer key that's provided, but don't look at the answer key until after you've done it, until after you've given it a good attempt, okay? Because even if you missed it, you want to ask yourself, why did I miss this? That's how you learn. That's why I give you the answer keys for all the quizzes. And there's an answer key for the worksheet. So the worksheet assignment there, you can, when you see that in the YouTube description box, that's something you can use the textbook for. The quizzes don't use the textbook. See how much you know without using the textbook, okay? So that's how that works. So again, this is demonstrative pronouns. I walk through it. We're going to do some translation. There'll be another video where we'll translate some sentences here. I'll work through some of these, and some of these sentences here in exercise 107. Remember, you got the Greek exercises where you go from Greek, translate into English, but then you also have English you can translate into Greek. That's going backwards. So you see these churches, the same disciples, those teachers. So if you take some of these sentences and try to work backwards, I know it's a struggle, but that's where you really learn. That's where it begins to, because you have to write out all these words. And you probably would need help with that and use your textbook for that. That's okay. I'm never going to quiz you over that. You would never have anything in the quizzes that would be go backward. Here's an English translated, go backwards into Greek. But if you do some of these, and there's still, it's in the answer key. You have the access to the answer key for all of these sentences and for these, so you can look and see if you are on track or not. But by doing these, you really are helping yourself. you're really helping yourself in regards to that. So just know that. So what you want to do is go through this lesson, read back through it, memorize your vocabulary, and that's up here. Go through all the vocabulary, and then watch the next video because it'll show some sentences, and I'll work through some translation of all of this, okay? And we'll go through it. So anyway, let me pray for us as we come to the end of this, the lecture part of lesson number 9. Dear Lord, as we come into this time where we're studying your word, but studying the Greek language, Lord, we just pray your blessing be upon us. Help us as we learn these demonstrative pronouns, as we learn how to think through learning all of this material, memorizing the paradigms, and understanding how it works. Lord, I pray for each student who is watching this, that you would be with them, give them guidance, give them help. And Lord, we give you thanks in Jesus' name. Amen. So again, I'm going to come back. The next video will have these sentences. We'll do some translating work. I'll show you the process of thinking it through. And then I want you to, again, I made all these materials. They're available to you. They're in the YouTube description box below. And you can get access to all of the materials, the answer keys, the quizzes, the worksheets. I'm hoping that you're using Quizlet, that you're participating in that. That'll help you as well. And the more that you keep doing this, and the farther along you go, working towards all 33 lessons, the more familiar you're going to be with Greek. The more you're going to learn it. And so, well, take care. God's blessings be upon you, and we'll see you in the next video.